Welcome back to the channel, guys. And well, yes guys, the Mclaren Madmac, i.e. the complete world's first ever P1 GTR, which is completely getting converted to a complete P1 GTR drift car, which is further on also the world's first ever rotary swapped P1, has completely completed the project and has finally reached the final stage where it has been revealed at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. And of course, it has gone from what was a complete track bred complete weapon on its own with the 3.8 liter twin turbo V8 as its beating heart, but of course that was properly chucked out for an all new 2-liter turbocharged triple rotor setup on its own, and on top of that, of course, the power going right to the rear wheels, a 900-degree amount of steering on its own for it to properly go sideways all across the world, and of course, a rocket bunny wide body kit on its own, a massive chassis mounted wing, properly taken into complete drift configuration on its own in every spec that you could think of. And of course, the final outcome has gone from this to this, ladies and gentlemen. I introduced to you the world's first ever P1 GTR drift car, i.e. the Madmac, 1000 horsepower to the rear wheels with a rotary setup as loud as unlike anything else on its own, and on top of that, 4 exhaust tailpipes, one coming right from the engine bay, which is basically the wastegate, and of course 2 coming from right underneath the complete right brake light on its own, which on its own is the proper exhaust from where the heat emanates, but nevertheless flames galore on its own from this. And on top of that, wheel spin as much as you can see. I mean a 1000 horsepower 2-liter turbocharged triple rotor setup, with the fact that this is a complete P1 shell on top of the exterior, but underneath it does in fact have a 650S GT3 chassis on its own, and that's exactly how Lanzante sent it to Madmac himself, who is the one who properly made this possible. And of course it made its proper grand debut in terms of its unveiling as well as properly completely burning rubber at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. And well, let's not waste any time, let's just directly delve in to the proper first ever tire shredding done by the P1 GTR drift car. And of course, headphones are recommended. Well guys, the sound of that rotary coming from the likes of a proper P1 GTR is something that I wouldn't have even thought of in my wildest dreams. Yet here we are just over a decade later since the proper P1 broke cover, and now we have the one-of-one Madmac which broke cover at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. And well, it's a very funny way of how life works out, but nevertheless I for one am a complete sucker for it. I mean the proper sound of it with the complete quad tailpipe system on its own, and on top of that the proper tire burning all over, the 1000 horsepower making its way to the wheels, and on top of it the sound of it, although it may be triggering to McLaren purists, it's something that I completely absolutely love, because it's something that no one will even have the balls to do. Because I mean, who would even thought of properly completely chucking out the twin turbo V8 from a P1? People would say it's sacrilegious, but for me of course it is sacrilegious, but it has been completely turned from a complete thoroughbred track weapon into a complete sideways monster, and I for one am here for it all the way through. I mean, just probably seeing something like a P1 being driven in such a manner, it properly puts a big smile on my face. And of course the P1, guys, let's be honest, if you ask me, the P1 is the goat of the holy trinity, not the Laugh, not the 918. Of course the 918 being the best of the three, and of course the Laugh having an NA V12, and of course I'm a sucker for V12s over anything, but of course I hate Ferrari. But nevertheless, coming from those three, the P1 is my pick because it has the most character of all. It will literally kill you. It won't try to, it will kill you on every single corner. and it will take every proper prick at the driver to properly lose control. But of course, that's exactly why I love it. It's the complete death factor that properly makes it the most fun car, or one of the most fun cars I've ever seen in my life. Yet, nevertheless, here we are just over a decade later, where it has gone from a complete track-bred, thoroughbred, complete proper aerodynamic monster to a complete sideways beast with 1000 horsepower, of course without the twin turbo V8, but instead a 2-liter turbocharged complete 3-rotor setup on its own, and of course 900 degrees of steering. And a very cool fact is this nearly did not make it to the deadline to get onto the plane from New Zealand to England, yet Madmac and his crew properly pulled off a proper mad project on its own and properly got it to England on time. And on top of that, this being the proper final outcome, I mean, how they did it on its own is beyond me, but nevertheless 100 days is what they took, and they delivered massively, and especially with the proper complete hill climb run being done in a proper showboating manner, and of course properly showcasing this car to everyone at Goodwood. I mean, this is a proper people's car, and this is, I'm definitely sure that this is something that every car guy out there will love, of course sparing the McLaren purists, of course. But nevertheless, in terms of car guys, I'm pretty sure this is completely, or most definitely, the single most radical automotive project to ever even grace the grounds of the holy planet of Earth. And on top of that, I mean, the complete 650S GT3 chassis on its own, molded with the P1 body. And of course, another very cool fact is the very sequential shifter that is there inside the cockpit was actually taken from Madmac's son's racing simulator, and he himself just took it out and properly bolted it onto the Madmac on its own. So that's a cool factor. But nevertheless, out with the complete twin turbo V8, in with the turbocharged 2-liter 3-rotor setup, the complete proper drift spec on its own, a proper sideways beast, and of course 90 to 20 pounds of boost is more than enough. And of course, in fact, they could have even taken it up in terms of the power, but of course it's due to the balance that they wanted to maintain. Hence 1000 horsepower for a proper P1 GTR drift car is definitely properly something that will definitely do. But nevertheless guys, the sideways monster, i.e. the Madmac. And of course, a proper shout out and a massive hats off to Mr. Madmac and his complete crew on properly pulling off a proper legendary project on its own. And this is something that will definitely live on as a proper legend in the books of automotive history. And of course, this properly gets a 6-speed sequential transmission, where it properly chucks out the 7-speed dual clutch flappy paddle gearbox on its own in a proper drift spec on its own. And not just that, it also obviously gets the high hydraulic handbrake, another proper basic norm in a proper drift car. And this being a P1, well, it's something that had to be there, that properly allows it to properly throw it around a corner at the highest neck braking speeds, yet it properly gets that amount of power, 1000 horsepower of course. And on top of that, the 2-liter turbocharged 3-rotor engine on its own is in fact a Mazda engine on its own, so it's quite literally McLaren X Mazda. And well, who will have thought that that would be the combination that properly would invoke such a monster on its own. But nevertheless, it's McLaren on the outside and Mazda on the inside. And of course, once again, a massive hats off to Mr. Madmac and how he properly drove this thing, as to how that it is actually properly powerful on a whole nother level compared to his prior projects, i.e. the Lamborghini Huracan, his RX-7 and on and on. But nevertheless, this being a proper hypercar on its own, this is on a whole nother level, and that's exactly why I love this. And I'm pretty sure that every proper car guy at heart will definitely love this, especially for the fact for this being a proper rotary powered P1. Need I say all the other things again? And well, what do you guys think? Comment below. And well, thanks a lot for watching guys. Remember to that sub button and click the bell to ensure you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks a lot for watching guys. See ya.